The rain never stops. Somewhere east of Paris, September 1944, a convoy sits silent in the mud. 30 trucks, maybe more. Empty, fuel tanks bone dry, drivers slumped against steering wheels, smoking the last of their cigarettes. The engines died hours ago. In the distance, artillery. Low thunder rolling across the horizon. The sound never leaves. It follows you, crawls under your skin, reminds you that the war is still moving, somewhere out there, and you're stuck here, dead in the water. A sergeant walks between the trucks. His boots sink deep with every step. He's counting the vehicles again, same number as before, same problem, no fuel, no ammo, no food, just metal skeletons waiting to rust in French farmland. He stops beside the lead truck. The driver looks up. How long? The sergeant shakes his head. Behind them, the rest of the Third Army waits. Thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, all of them grinding to a halt because the fuel trucks never came. Patton's charging army, fastest advance in military history, now sitting still like tin soldiers on a shelf. The sergeant lights another cigarette. The rain hisses on the glowing tip. Across the German border in a concrete bunker deep behind enemy lines, a Wehrmacht general studies a map. He traces the American advance with one finger. Then he stops, leans back, almost smiles. They've outrun their logistics. He says it like a diagnosis. They always do. August 1944. Normandy is burning. The hedgerows are gone. The fields are craters. Every village is rubble and smoke. The Germans are retreating, falling back toward the Seine, toward the Reich, toward whatever's left. The Allies are pushing. Fast. Faster than anyone planned. Operation Cobra broke the German line wide open. Now it's a race. Patton's Third Army is tearing through France like a knife through paper. 30 miles a day. 40. Sometimes F50. Towns liberated before maps can be printed. Supply officers scrambling to keep up. But there's a problem. Every tank needs fuel. Every rifle needs bullets. Every soldier needs food, and all of it. Every gallon, every crate, every tin of rations has to come from the beaches. From Normandy. From ports still clogged with wreckage and half-sunk ships. The plan was simple. The Allies would capture ports along the French coast. Cherbourg, Brest, Le Havre. Big harbours with docks and cranes and rail lines. Supply depots would spring up. Trains would carry everything forward. Clean. Organised. By the book. But the plan is dead. The Germans destroyed every port before they left, blew the docks, sank ships in the harbours, ripped up rail lines, mined the approaches. Cherbourg won't be operational for weeks. Brest is a graveyard. Le Havre is still occupied, so everything, every bullet, every bandage, every can of beans has to come through Normandy. Through Omaha Beach, through Utah Beach, through artificial harbours built in the storm-racked English Channel. And then it has to move, 400 miles from the coast to the front line, through destroyed roads, through bombed-out towns, through a country still crawling with retreating Germans and French resistance fighters and refugees walking in every direction. The supply officers do the math. They run the numbers again. And again. It doesn't work. A single armoured division needs 300,000 gallons of fuel per day. Patton has 7 divisions. The trucks can't carry enough. The roads can't handle the traffic. The distances are too far. But Patton doesn't care about math. He's on the radio every night, shouting, demanding, threatening. His tanks are rolling and he's not stopping. Not for logistics. Not for supply lines. Not for reality. Give me fuel and I'll be in Germany in 10 days. The supply officers stare at their maps. At the distance. At the empty depots. At the columns of trucks that haven't moved in hours because there's nothing to carry. One of them lights a cigarette. We're going to lose this war because of gasoline. In Germany, the generals know it too. They sit in war rooms, study intelligence reports, listen to intercepted radio chatter, watch the American advance slow, stutter, stop. One of them laughs. It's a dry sound, like wind through dead leaves. The Americans are excellent fighters, brave, well-equipped, but they don't understand war. He taps the map. War is not about how fast you can advance. It's about how long you can sustain it. Another general nods. They've outrun their supply lines, just like we did in Russia. The room goes quiet. Let them come, let them push. When they run out of fuel, we'll cut them apart. Back in France, the convoys crawl forward, bumper to bumper, 3 miles per hour. The roads are clogged, vehicles break down, drivers fall asleep at the wheel, accidents pile up, traffic jams stretch for miles. And every day, the front line moves farther away. Patton's tanks sit silent, out of fuel, out of ammo, out of time. The Third Army is dying, not from enemy fire, not from German counterattacks, from logistics. Late August, a briefing room somewhere behind the lines. Officers stand around a table covered in maps. Red lines mark the front, blue lines mark supply routes. The blue lines are too short, the red lines are too far. A logistics officer steps forward. He's been awake for 30 hours. His uniform is wrinkled. His eyes are hollow. We can't keep up. No one speaks. Patton's moving faster than we can supply him. Every gallon of fuel we send forward burns 2 gallons getting there. The math doesn't work. A colonel leans over the map. What do we need? Trucks, drivers, roads, time. We don't have time. Then we don't have supply. The room shifts. Someone coughs. The weight of the problem settles like smoke. An idea forms. Not a good idea, not a clean idea, but an idea. We bypass the normal supply chain, direct delivery, beach to front line, one dedicated route non-stop, 24 hours a day. The logistics officer blinks. That's not how supply works. It is now. The operation gets a name. Red Bull Express, named after the railway term for high priority freight. Red Bull, fast, direct, no stops. They draw a line on the map, a loop, from Normandy to the front and back again. 600 miles round trip, marked with Red Bulls painted on signs every few miles. One-way traffic, northbound on one road, southbound on another, nothing else allowed. They calculate the requirements. 6,000 trucks, minimum, 23,000 drivers, fuel, spare parts, mechanics, MPs to direct traffic, engineers to repair roads, and they need it yesterday. The call goes out. Truck companies scattered across France get new orders. Drop everything. Report to Normandy. Bring your vehicles. Bring your crews. Prepare for round-the-clock operations. Most of the drivers are black. The US Army is segregated. Black soldiers aren't allowed in combat units. Not infantry, not tanks, not artillery. They're assigned to service roles. Quartermaster Corps, transportation, labour battalions. Now they're the only thing keeping the war moving. They arrive in Normandy. Thousands of them. Drivers from the 6666 Quartermaster Truck Company, the 3896, the 512, companies with numbers instead of names, men who loaded ships in England, who hauled supplies through hedgerows, who were told they'd never see combat. Now they're being handed keys to 2.5-ton trucks, GMC Jimmies, Studebakers, Mack trucks, whatever's available. A captain addresses the assembled drivers. He's white, exhausted, desperate. You're going to drive from here to the front, load up, turn around, drive back, then do it again. Someone in the crowd speaks up. How many times? Until the war ends. No one laughs. The first convoy rolls out August 25th, trucks loaded with jerry cans of fuel, crates of ammunition, medical supplies, rations, everything Patton needs to keep moving. The trucks leave St. Lo at midnight, headlights taped over, blackout driving. The road is one lane, pocked with craters, lined with wreckage. Burned out German vehicles pushed to the side, trees splintered by artillery, the smell of cordite and wet ash. They drive in the dark, no stops, no brakes. If a truck breaks down, push it off the road, keep moving. The driver of the lead truck grips the wheel. His name is Corporal James Turner, Alabama, drafted 2 years ago, spent the last 6 months hauling crates in England, never fired a weapon in anger, never expected to. Now he's driving through enemy territory. The road curves, narrows. The truck beside him scrapes against a stone wall. Sparks fly. No one slows down. Up ahead, a flash. Someone shouts, "Artillery!" The convoy doesn't stop, can't stop. You stop, you die, you keep moving, you might live. The shells hit 100 yards to the left. Trees explode. Earth fountains into the sky. The concussion rattles through the truck cabin. Turner grips the wheel tighter, keeps his foot on the gas. Behind him, 50 more trucks follow. They drive through the night, through the explosions, through the fear. At dawn, they reach the Third Army depot, a field outside Chartres, tents, stacked crates, soldiers running everywhere. The trucks pull in, engines idling, fuel jerry cans unloaded by hand, 5 gallons each, heavy, dangerous, fumes everywhere, men working in silence, no time for talk. A sergeant walks past, sees the drivers, black faces, covered in road dust, eyes red from sleepless driving. He nods. About damn time. Turner doesn't respond, just climbs back into the truck, turns around, starts the drive back, 600 miles round trip. They'll do it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. September. The convoys never stop. Day and night, rain and mud. The Red Ball Express runs like a heartbeat. Trucks moving forward, trucks moving back. A constant flow of steel and rubber and gasoline. The drivers don't sleep. They catch an hour here, 2 hours there. In the cab of the truck, on the side of the road, curled up in a ditch while mechanics change a tyre. Then back behind the wheel, back on the road. The route is chaos. Traffic jams stretch for miles. Trucks break down, engines overheat, tyres blow out, axles snap. Every mechanical failure is a crisis. Vehicles pushed into ditches, cannibalised for parts, abandoned. The MPs try to keep order, direct traffic, wave trucks through intersections, yell at drivers to close the gaps. Keep moving, keep moving. But the road is disintegrating. The weight of 6,000 trucks grinds the pavement to powder. Potholes become craters. Craters become impassable. Engineers work around the clock, filling holes with gravel, laying metal planks, building bypasses through fields. The Germans know about the convoys. They see the dust clouds from miles away. Hear the engines. Reconnaissance planes fly over at dawn, spotting, counting, radioing, coordinates. Then the attacks come. Stragglers. German units cut off by the advance. Desperate, hungry, looking for supplies. They set up ambushes along the route, hide in tree lines, wait for a lone truck, a straggler. They hit fast, small arms fire, Panzerfausts, then disappear into the woods. The drivers aren't armed, not officially, not according to regulations, but regulations don't matter when someone's shooting at you. They carry what they can find. Pistols, carbines, taken from wrecked vehicles, traded from infantry, hidden under seats. Corporal Turner drives with a 45 on the dashboard. He's never fired it. One night, outside Alençon, the convoy stops. Traffic jam. A truck broke down up ahead. The line stretches back a mile, engines idling, drivers waiting. Turner sits in the dark, listening. A sound. Footsteps. He looks out the window, shadows moving between the trucks, low, fast, then gunfire, muzzle flashes in the dark, bullets punching through canvas, men shouting, trucks lurching forward, engines revving. Turner grabs the pistol, throws open the door, sees a figure running toward him, uniform wrong, helmet wrong, he fires, the pistol kicks, the figure drops, more shooting, all around, drivers firing from truck cabs, Germans firing back, chaos, noise, smoke, then headlights, a jeep roaring up from the rear, MPs. 30 cal machine gun mounted on the back, they open fire, long bursts, tracers cutting through the night, the Germans scatter, disappear into the fields, the convoy moves again, Turner sits behind the wheel, hands shaking, the pistol still warm in his lap. He doesn't report it, doesn't tell anyone, just keeps driving. The attacks increase, Luftwaffe sorties, rare, desperate. German planes diving out of the clouds, strafing the convoys, trucks exploding in fireballs, drivers killed at the wheel, but the convoys don't stop. Every destroyed truck is replaced, every dead driver replaced. The Red Ball Express keeps moving. By mid-September, they're hauling 12,000 tons of supplies per day. Gasoline, ammunition, food, medical supplies, everything the Third Army needs to keep the advance alive. Patton's tanks start moving again, slowly at first, then faster. The fuel arrives, the guns fire, the infantry pushes forward. In Germany, the generals watch. They expected the American advance to collapse, expected the supply lines to snap, expected the Third Army to starve in place. Instead, the convoys keep coming. One general stares at the reconnaissance photos, long lines of trucks, stretching from horizon to horizon. How many vehicles do they have? An aide checks the report. Intelligence estimates 6,000, operating continuously. The general sets down the photo. That's impossible. They're doing it anyway. Silence. Another general speaks, older, Prussian, voice like gravel. We assumed they would follow doctrine, establish depots, build infrastructure, move methodically. He taps the photo. They threw doctrine away. They're improvising. Can we stop it? We don't have the resources. Our air force is gone. Our fuel is gone. We can harass them, slow them, but we can't stop them. The room settles into cold understanding. The Americans have solved their logistics problem. Not solved, brute forced. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. November 1944. The Red Ball Express shuts down. Not because it failed, because it succeeded. The ports are operational now. Antwerp, Le Havre. Supply ships unload directly into depots. Rail lines rebuilt. The infrastructure Patton outran finally catches up. The trucks are pulled off the route. Drivers reassigned. The Red Bull signs taken down. In 3 months, the Red Bull Express moved 400,000 tons of supplies. Gasoline, ammunition, food. Everything needed to keep the fastest military advance in history moving. 6,000 trucks, 23,000 drivers, over 80% of them black. They drove day and night, through ambushes, through artillery, through exhaustion, without recognition, without medals, without mention in the official reports. The Third Army reached the German border. Patton's tanks rolled into the Siegfried Line. The advance that should have collapsed kept moving. The logistics that the German generals laughed at became the weapon that won the war, but the cost was paid in the convoys. The trucks wore out, ground to scrap, engines destroyed, transmissions blown, tyres shredded. By the end, half the vehicles were held together with wire and prayers. The drivers paid more. Some died in ambushes, some in accidents, vehicles rolling over on bad roads, head-on collisions in the dark, exhaustion-induced crashes. No one kept count, no official records, just empty seats in the convoy. Others broke down, physically, mentally, driving until they couldn't anymore, hospitalised, sent home, forgotten. Corporal Turner finished his last run in early November. He drove into the depot, shut off the engine, climbed out, walked away. He never saw that truck again. Later, a reporter embedded with the Third Army wrote a story about the advance, about Patton's dash across France, about the tanks and the infantry and the battles. He mentioned logistics once, a single paragraph, buried in the middle. Supplies were delivered by truck convoy. No names, no details, no recognition. The story ran in stars and stripes, then in newspapers back home. It made Patton a household name, made the Third Army legendary. The drivers of the Red Bull Express weren't mentioned. They went back to loading ships, hauling supplies, filling support roles, invisible again. After the war, the US Army conducted a study, Logistics in the European Theatre, analysing supply operations, what worked, what didn't. The Red Bull Express was listed as a success, an improvised solution to an unanticipated problem. The report noted the tonnage, the distances, the speed. It didn't mention the drivers by name. Decades later, historians revisited the records, started asking questions. Who drove those trucks? Where are they now? What happened to them? Most of the answers were gone, records incomplete, units dissolved, men scattered. Some of the drivers were still alive, old now, living quiet lives in forgotten towns. When asked about the Red Bull Express, most didn't want to talk. It was a long time ago. We just did what we were told. It wasn't a big deal. But in their eyes, something remained, a memory, a weight. They drove through a war, kept an army alive, changed the course of history, and no one said thank you. The photographs are black and white, rows of trucks disappearing into the horizon, drivers standing beside vehicles, faces young, eyes tired. The images don't show the fear, the exhaustion, the nights driving through artillery fire, the crashes, the dead. They just show trucks. In German archives, there's a memo, written by a Wehrmacht logistics officer in September 1944. It's marked with a date, filed away, never acted upon. The American supply convoy system represents a paradigm shift in military logistics. They have abandoned efficiency in favour of volume. The result is crude but effective. The memo ends with a single line: "We cannot match this." The German generals who laughed at American logistics were right about one thing. The United States didn't follow doctrine, didn't establish proper supply depots, didn't build infrastructure before advancing. They just threw trucks at the problem, 6,000 of them, and it worked. Not because it was elegant, not because it was efficient, but because it was relentless. The Red Bull Express wasn't a triumph of planning, it was a triumph of will. Drivers who kept moving when every instinct screamed to stop. Mechanics who kept trucks running with duct tape and scavenged parts. Officers who improvised solutions on the fly. Because the rulebook didn't have answers. It was messy, wasteful, brutal, but it won the war. Years later, a military historian wrote a book about logistics in World War II. He included a chapter on the Red Bull Express. At the end he wrote, "The Germans studied war, the Americans built trucks." He meant it as criticism. But the trucks reached the front line, and the Third Army reached Berlin. The convoys are gone now, the roads repaved, the Red Bull signs long since removed, the trucks scrapped decades ago. But somewhere in the archives there's a photo, a convoy at dawn, trucks stretching back into the mist, drivers standing beside their vehicles, waiting for the order to move. You can't see their faces clearly, just silhouettes against the grey light. They're about to drive into history, and no one will remember their names.